Hello fellows, Kim the guy here. The earth is a home of a lot and a lot of dead people. In fact, it is more of a home of a dead people than it is a home of the living. All the humans that have ever existed on earth are estimated to be 117 billion. Out of the 117 billion, only 8 billion of them are alive here today. That means 93% of every single person that has ever existed on earth is dead. Those are human. An estimated number of 3.07 trillion animals are killed every year by human for consumption, with an exclusion of 230 billion fishes that are extracted from the oceans and fish farms for human consumption each year. These are the records taken from slaughterhouse worldwide. But you and I knows that we do not need slaughterhouses to eat meat. Animals are killed each and every single day outside slaughterhouses for meat. But to eliminate doubt, let's stick with slaughterhouses. So every year, an estimated of 3.3 trillion animals dies in slaughterhouse. Poaching, hunting, disputes, and human carelessness are also causes of animals' death. Natural disasters, aging, sickness, stupidity, selfishness, both in human towards animals and animals towards each other, competition, hate, and love are also some of factors that claim significant number of lives on earth. The total number of all animals alive on earth, including mosquitoes, ants, and fish, is estimated to be around 20 quintillion. That's a huge number. No one on earth is able to imagine a quintillion, let alone 20 quintillions. If you haven't watched my video on the world's largest number, please do. It is the immediate previous video. And until then, you cannot be able to get an idea of how big a quintillion is. As always, let's bring the perspective closer. The total number of human beings alive today is estimated to be 8 billion. That's 0.0000006% of all the animals that are alive here today. That's 0 point followed by 6 zeros, then 6. How did we manage to colonize Earth? An eighth of 20 quintillion animals dies every year. That's about 3.3 quintillion animals dying every year. No. I have to end this video. Let's not include plants. Let's just conclude that since animals consumes plants, or they consumes the ones that consumes plant, so plants and a lot of plants dies every day. One thing we don't know is that death is actually so common, more common than life is. Yeah, at 6:05 p.m. on Thursday, 4th of April 1968, on a balcony outside a second floor room at Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, a gunshot was heard. The gunshot caused a severe wound to the lower right side of Martin Luther King Jr. An ambulance rushed him to St. James Hospital, where doctors pronounced him dead at 7:05 p.m. At the time of his death, Martin was 39 years old. It is now 55 years since the death of Martin Luther King. So Martin has been dead for longer than he has been alive. The same is with every living organism. 97% of every human being alive today will be dead in 85 years to come. The remaining 3% will probably not live past 15 years after. In 150 years to come, every human being alive today will not only be dead, but totally forgotten. In 200 years to come, 40% will be the mean percentage of years that they will have been considered alive. The remaining 60% will be the mean percentage of years spent when dead. and the dead years will continue increasing significantly. In that, 1,000 years from now, the one who will have the most years lived out of those who are alive today might not exceed 10% alive years. The rest of the 90% of years, he or she will have spent them when dead. Sadly, the percentage of the alive year will continue dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. The only thing that cannot be deleted is that you once existed and you are long gone. You and every human of your generation will forever exist as dead humans. That's how common death is. We just don't want to face that fact, or we don't want to. We struggle to conceive death as an incident that happens then disappear. But deep down in ourselves, we know that death is a state, and once it's attained, it's forever. Death is a very, very, very bad thing. Or is it? Death is bad as far as we are concerned, but in a bigger picture, death is fantastically good. To include the death of Hitler, Osama bin Laden, Idi Amin Dada, and other dangerous humans whose death freed us from, we have to admit that death is a relief. Sometimes the best way to avoid pain, suffering, and anguish for some animals and humans is death. We also have to admit that death means life. Yes, without death, there is only death and more death. In fact, you and every single person that you have ever seen is alive today because of death. You are a product of death. Several minutes after one of your ancestors died 200,000 years ago, decomposition begins with a process called autolysis. His body temperature began dropping until it has acclimatized to its surrounding. Then the stiffness of the dead sets in, starting in the eyelids, jaw, neck, and the muscles, before working its way into the trunk and the limbs. The cells are depleted of their energy sources, and the protein filaments becomes locked in place. This caused muscles to become rigid and locks the joints. His immune system shuts down, letting the microbes to spread throughout the body freely. Left unchecked, gut bacteria begins to digest the intestines and the surrounding tissues from inside out, using the chemical cocktail that leaks out of damaged cells as a food source. As the gas pressure continues to build up inside the body, it caused blisters to appear all over the skin, followed by loosening and then slippage of large sheets of skin. Eventually, the gases and liquefied tissues purged from the body through anus and from ripped skin in other parts of the body. And boom! He was food for fungi, flies, nematodes, mites, moths, and beetles. The remaining delicacy was left for plants to feed him as manure. After the plants died, they also were fed on by herbivores. Herbivores that were fed on by carnivores or omnivores. The beetle, flies, fungi, and nematodes that fed on your ancestors are long dead, and they were probably fed on by plants. Plants that were probably fed on by your ancestors' great grandchildren, who are long dead, so that scavengers can feed on them and live to die later. And the process went on and on and on and on until today's dinner, when you will be feeding on your ancestors' intestines. And probably it will be a delicious meal of vegetables. Don't feel guilty yet, because your descendants will enjoy doing so to your duodenum, and they will need it for them to survive, so that their descendants can survive, and so on and so forth. It is called ecosystem, a way of creating life through death. You just have to remember that I appreciate your time, and especially if you subscribe.